This is Digital Breakthroughs, putting the spotlight on cutting-edge digital marketing strategies for your business. With your host, CEO of industry-recognized digital marketing and social media agency, National Positions, Bernard May.
Okay, welcome back to the Digital Breakthroughs podcast. It has been a minute since we've been on. I am subbing in for Bernard May today. So I am Matt Erickson, Director of Marketing here at National Positions, and we have a big subject to cover today. We're going to be talking all about Facebook and the Apple iOS 14, 14.3, 14.5, all these crazy updates going on. And for those who are not in the know, for some of you who don't know, back in December of 2021, some of you may have heard the story about Facebook taking out a full page ad against Apple. Lots of people didn't know what that was all about, but it was all over the New York Times. So you can Google that. You can find out more about that. We wrote about this subject at the turn of 2021 on our own blog on nationalpositions.com. And we also published it for Forbes. We're Forbes contributors. So we did a whole article in March about this. So now we are finally seeing the effects of this update. So I wanted to bring some people in who have far more knowledge about it than I do. So we have Phoenix Ha, who is our director of basically paid social strategy here at National Positions. And we also have McKay and Carly and Megan, our entire social team. So Phoenix, I'm going to start with you. I mean, I want to do intros for everyone, but I know we want to get into what the heck is going on, what brought us to this point, and where we're going. So Phoenix, the floor is yours.
Yeah, hi. I think this is my first time on the podcast, so
It's your first
thanks for the
time,
introduction.
not the last time.
Yeah, so this has been a hot topic for some time now, and right when it was starting to roll out, where the rumors are rolling out, I said, Matt, we need to get something out here as soon as possible. Let's do our research, and pretty much all we had known at the time is something is coming, right? Game of Thrones style, winter is coming. Well, the iOS 14 is coming, and we didn't know exactly what that meant. We just knew that data tracking was going to be limited, and everything that we do in paid media, specifically with paid social, is tracking. Facebook is such a robust and amazing platform to be able to serve ads. And for us to do that, you need data tracking. And they were under fire, particularly by Apple. And I'll go into what my personal belief is, right? What those motivations are. But just to simplify it is Apple attacked Facebook saying, hey, your data security or your data tracking is not, I guess, ethical, right? There's cybersecurity, et cetera. And Facebook goes, well, in order for us to serve ads or help these businesses that are using our platform to sell our products, we need to be able to direct it to the right consumer. Mm-hmm. So it's very simple as even like going to a store and you're in a POS system, a physical brick and mortar, you swipe your card, they ask you for your information. They store that information so they know that, hey, Matt Erickson at a certain age demographic, a gender, et cetera, is purchasing at this average order volume. Now you have data. Now you know who your consumer is. There's nothing different on Facebook. So
yeah, so
that was under fire.
So with that, and I think a lot of people will get confused because I know there's been a lot in the last, especially 2 years, about privacy protections and protecting our personal. I think everyone, obviously, we don't want people to know more than they should, about us. And I think for years I've had to tell people, it's not like we could go onto Google or onto Facebook and target a campaign at Phoenix or at Carly. Like, we can't do that. We have very general information, maybe where in the country you are, or like you said, maybe Matt has interests in entrepreneurship or marketing, so I may get served ads for that kind of thing. But that's the kind of stuff, even that basic stuff, that this update might be impacting.
Right. And so what this update is all we knew was there's going to be a prompt. It pops up and it says, do you want to opt in or out of tracking? So to the average consumer, everyone's going to go, absolutely, I do not want to be tracked. Are you kidding me? I don't want them listening in on my phone. There's always that that really funny, what would we call it? A conspiracy theory that we're listening, and I'm going to blame Amazon. I'm not going to blame us for this, right? But that we're listening to your thoughts. And my argument is always, who cares, right? I don't really care about what you're doing. But I always say this to somebody who goes, well, of course I'm going to opt out. And I go, okay, well, enjoy getting plumber ads, enjoy getting ads that are completely non-applicable to you, unless you need a plumber, right? But that's my point, is just because you opt out doesn't mean you won't get ads. It just means you won't get ads that are tailored to you. So for example, if I'm looking up streetwear because I love streetwear, and now I'm getting all these really fun Betsy Johnson dresses, now we're completely off, right? This isn't right. It doesn't make sense, just maybe because of my gender. But anyway, this is the iOS update. We didn't really know much about it. All we knew was that it was going to be limited and you're going to have the option to opt out. And that is very dangerous for digital advertisers because it limits so much of what we can do, and your return on ad spend and all the efforts we put into these really awesome strategies is going to have impact.
For sure. And so let me recap really quick, just for those who, because I'm an Android user. I know most people are actually Apple users. So for those who are not up with the lingo, but I'm pretty sure you get it. Basically, you know, Apple has a new operating system update, and it was 14. That's what we knew at the time, is it was 14. So just like on mine, I'll get a Android saying you have an OS update. So you reboot your phone, let it update, but then you're going into something like Facebook, and it immediately prompts, you know, would be prompting, you know, users saying, do you want your, it sounds more nefarious than it is, but do you want to be tracked, basically? And so instead of, I think before you could kind of backdoor, you could go in to, you know, Facebook and say, please don't, you know, you could do that, but now it was preemptively giving people the option to opt out, specifically on iOS or on Apple devices. Because what you were saying, Phoenix, I was just noticing, we've been talking about this, and even on mine, I've been in my Instagram going through, and I'll be getting like, why am I getting I'm getting an ad for, I'm not a father and I'm getting ads for baby things. Like, what is this about? Like, I don't understand, you know? So it's not just affecting, you know, Apple users. I mean, I'm seeing an impact on just my day-to-day.
Right. And I think that's why it's so important that we've broken this podcast up into the different updates and the phases that we've seen. Right now, currently, as we are recording this, we're going through the 14.5 phase, which I think is the worst phase we've hit so far. But before we can even dive into what has happened there, I think we need to start from the beginning. And I'm so glad that we're just talking about just the 14 rollout, what it means, what we had to do. So we had a series of steps that we needed to take to prep for this, and we did that. And even in doing that, we're behind, right? And that's just to showcase what's going on in the space. And that's why I think it's so important we talk about this, because people were running their own ads. I think it was a lot easier back in the day to run Facebook ads on your own as a business owner. Right now, during this tumultuous time, get people who know what they're doing, or get people who have experience in it and are consistently doing their research. But before we even go into any of that, I really want to just introduce our team really quick before we dive in, if you feel comfortable, Matt.
Of course.
So I'll start with myself. I'll keep it super, super brief. I have a background in just marketing, 360 marketing overall. I used to work for K-Swiss global brands, Supra Footwear. I've worked with, you know, Nike, Adidas, a bunch of different companies here and there from an agency level, but in-house was K-Swiss and Supra. And I've just seen fashion specifically. And then ever since I joined National Positions, it's been such a broad range of different clients, specifically in digital marketing. And you take a really great omni-channel 360 approach, right? You take you know, historical just print advertising, all the way to digital advertising, all the way to global marketing efforts. So that's kind of where my experience comes from, but really where the heart of it is this team. So I'll go ahead and start with McKay. McKay Nuriel, want to go ahead and say hi, give a little background on yourself?
Yes, hello everyone. I'm McKay. I am based in Seattle, Washington, and I am actually new to the advertising marketing world. I have a background in administration and retail. I did merchandising for a while. Was a personal stylist. I've also worked in recruiting, so kind of a different background, but I also do social media for fun on my own. So I was a small business owner for a while too, and, you know, was running ads, trying to navigate that myself. So it's interesting being on the other side of it and doing this for other brands and businesses. But yeah, so I'll talk about it a little bit later, but I've only really ever known marketing with the iOS 14 update. So I have a unique perspective. I have no background previously into, what it was like before all this. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, so McKay is actually the heartbeat behind a lot of our creative. So, you're going to hear a lot of strategies going, it doesn't matter what the iOS 14 update is, as long as you have impactful creative. Okay, yes, that's a portion of it. So that is our silent killer right there, is McKay. She has social media under her belt from not only a recreational standpoint, but also from a business side. The next person I want to really introduce is Carly. Carly, you are just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to schools. I think that's like a whole beast in itself. So go ahead and introduce yourself, kind of give people an idea of what you've done.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Carly. I'm based in Phoenix, Arizona. I just started recently as well at National Positions, but I do have a few years of experience in paid social. So like Phoenix mentioned, I mainly focused on schools. So at my university, I kind of spearheaded their paid social department. I was helping out a lot with creating campaigns for our winter sessions, everything like that. And then I also had experience working for another educational company, doing similar things, paid social, also a little bit of organic. So I have experience with times before iOS 14 and kind of transitioning into iOS 14. So it's been interesting to see how things have changed recently.
Awesome. And then this is our newest team member, Megan. And Megan's a cool wealth of knowledge too, because your background is in a very different type of industry, right? We talked about anything from having fashion under your belt all the way to schools, and now you are service specific industry, correct?
Yeah, so I was. I'm Megan. Yeah, I'm based in Nashville. I worked before National Positions at another agency, a lot smaller. And our clients were like hyper local, focused on the service industry. So a lot of chimney sweeps, which was interesting. So, if you learn to write ads for something not as exciting as even clothing, it's really fun when you get to do ads for other clients and get to come up with creative and copy that people, don't forget exists, because the service industry sometimes is very, under the radar for a lot of people, which was definitely an interesting launch into Facebook ads for me personally, but it's been really fun to kind of be able to change up the different clients that I'm helping surface. So looking forward to that, doing it more.
Cool. Well, that's our team. But yeah, I mean, what we were talking about was really, okay, we know that the iOS 14 is coming. Oh no. And what do we need to prepare ourselves? So I think the first thing I told you, Matt, was, hey, I found these articles on conversion API and domain verification. Do you remember this?
I do remember this. But what if someone doesn't know what those things are? Because I think I think you hit a thing, because I do want to kind of tie this back to, there have been a lot of, traditionally small businesses, especially, you don't see a lot of Coca-Cola ads on Facebook. You don't see a lot of these a lot of times these big brands. It's a lot of it, they're more local companies and people may have been running it themselves. And which that's who we work with, a lot of, SMBs, and we even some B2Bs. But yeah, when all this started coming down, and I've, been in audience insights, I've, built my own audiences before. So I'm, I've had my hands that have been fairly familiar. And then when this started coming into play, everything you're talking about, the attribution part, all of a sudden my brain went about what's going to happen. So yeah, I mean, pick that up, because I think that that's something that's, people are going to need to know the foundation in this part 1 to know where we're going in part 2 and 3 of this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's speak in real people terms, right? I often nerd out with our crew, and this is like a very select crew that understands these terms. So let's bring the listener into the crew real quick. So there's something called attribution, and attribution has something to do with, when someone did something in a certain amount of time. Very simple, right? So there's something called click attribution, and there's something called view attribution. And to make it very simple, is click is how many people clicked an ad within a certain amount of time and converted, in other words, made a purchase from our ads or our efforts. Mm-hmm. The second portion is view. So view, who viewed our ads and still decided down the line they're going to click at a different time, etc., or come back. They purchased, or and or converted. So you'll hear us saying conversions a lot. Conversions mean purchases, or conversions could mean whatever you're trying to optimize for, whatever you're trying to get. Are you trying to get a lead? Are you trying to get a purchase? What are you trying to get? It's a conversion. And very simply put,
a lot of this for the very simple people like myself, the way that I can keep this straight is I use just the term of we attribute success to something. You know, where do we, maybe we don't say that normal, but, you know, attribute means where are we seeing success? So with Phoenix talking about if we're attributing a lot of clicks to something, we can go, oh, that's what's succeeding. That's what's working. That's just so I could say it out loud so I understand it. So, okay, you know, back to you, Phoenix.
Totally fine. And something I really want to clarify is often our clients get PPC, so pay-per-click, AKA like Google ads, very confused with social. And it's fair, right? You think digital marketing and you think the same thing. Very, very different. What paid social is optimizing for is purchases. So when I say conversions or clicks, I don't just mean clicking to come to your site. I'm saying clicking and converting, or clicking and purchasing. That is what I'm speaking to when it comes to reporting, and what this iOS 14 update is really affecting is both reporting and targeting. Targeting being, who am I going to drive these ads to, right? Is it a specific demographic? Who is your audience? So those are so little terminology there. And the next term I'm going to throw out there is called the conversion API. So from a very simple point of how a Facebook ad works, right? We create an ad, visually appealing, could be a video, could be a still image. Then we have something called copy, which is just text, right? Buy this now is called a CTA, a call to action. And when we have this combination, we drive people to a website, or we can drive them somewhere else, but in our case, we drive them to a website. When you go there and they actually purchase, that is a conversion. Now, this is the part that Facebook is really savvy about. There's just something called a pixel. And a pixel is basically just a data tracking tool. So how many times you visited a certain website, they have that information. If you've added to cart, how much that cart was in average order volume. So maybe I want to buy a sweatshirt and a hat. That is going to be more than, let's just say, Carly only wanting to buy a sticker, which Carly just a sticker queen. So if you have that, right, you have that knowledge, then I can go, okay, well, Carly didn't buy that sticker the first time she saw my ad. She just added it to cart. How do I come back to Carly and say, Carly, your sticker's in your cart. It's time to buy. What are you missing out on? Let me give you 10% off, right? So it's called a sales funnel. It's a funnel. So this pixel is so important because then it gives us data and knowing who's coming to the website, similar to the example I gave to who's walking into your brick and mortar. It's the same thing, right? Sure. It's not as violating as I think some people would think. Yeah, so but conversion go ahead.
Sorry, and I was going to say, so like this, you know, this pixel, and there's many different, you know, uses of it, but, you know, even just having those tiny little nuggets of information from either Matt or from Carly or from Phoenix is going to allow, you know, that business to really pinpoint what the messaging should be to either, you know, bring me back or bring Phoenix back, depending on what you've done before. So no one's getting the same message all the time. This is to help us or help the business help themselves, so they're not being intrusive with their messaging.
Exactly. Got it. How many times do you have the guy on the side of the road going, you need to buy this? And you can only hear that so many times before you want to just like run away, right? So you have to change up the messaging, and that is part of this funnel we're speaking to. And it's a very strategic way about going with ads. Some people just put ads up and go, people are going to buy, and sometimes that is the case, right? That's the exception to the rule. But as digital advertisers in the paid social space, we have to be very careful. And this is leading up to the last thing that they asked us to create, which is domain verification. So when the iOS 14 rolled out, or rumors that it would roll out, they said, hey, we need you to implement a conversion API and domain verification. And when I first heard this, I was like, I don't speak this language. What are you talking about? And I had to do my research, and conversion API is just basically a way for them to track on the back end of the site through the domain verification, of being able to harbor this data that maybe the pixel won't be able to pick up. It's just basically a safety net.
Sure.
Do we know how impactful that conversion API is as of yet? No, but we'll talk about this a little bit later about how our eyes keep opening up, right? We can only see a little tiny peephole, keyhole in the door right now, and every day it just gets bigger and bigger. So we'll come back to the domain verification, which is something that we had to actually revisit in 14.3 update. But these were the two recommendations: verify your domain, which is just a little bit of a code in your header of your website in the HTML code, and conversion API, which is just, again, another code. It's almost like another pixel type setup. And these are some things that they said, hey, prep yourselves for it. And that's all the information we received.
And this was what
you can only imagine.
This is what Facebook was Facebook was telling us. These are because this is the thing. I think some, I'm sure we're going to get into this as we go down, but this it was not a normal update. And on within the company, like if we hear something from Google, like there's going to be a Google update, to their algorithm, we have to take it with a grain of salt, because even if we know it's coming, even you could go to the highest ranked SEO blogs on, online, and there's a lot of, here's what could happen, because we don't know. We simply, even though National Positions has been around for almost 20 years, we don't have a crystal ball. All we know is we think it's going to be surrounding this, and we have to wait until the full implementation goes in, and we don't want to say we want to react, but we do as much as we can on the front end to go, here's what we think is going to happen. We're going to prepare. But then once we start getting that data back, then we know, okay, we know if we pivoted in the right direction, or we've done what we can, or we have to quickly adapt and go, in a different direction. And what, everything Phoenix and that you're laying out, that Phoenix is laying out, this was back beginning of 2021. Well, we were like, okay, we're going to do what you said. And even Facebook was saying, because I was on a couple of these calls, we're going, this is what we know. But there was, even when it came to like data and a lot of things we're going to get into, they were saying there's a lot we don't know yet. So that's a very precarious position to be in on our end, because, we're trying to make sure we're doing the right thing for everybody and we're setting everyone up for success. But being in this state where we know we could have to pivot at any moment has just been very stressful. I think you're on mute there, Phoenix. There we go.
Hi, I'm back. I think it is really stressful, but we can only do what we can do, right? I think that was the big thing, is as entrepreneurs, not ourselves, but those who, invest in Facebook marketing, is you have to just ride those waves. And we here, our job is just to give you a little bit of padding, a little bit of, hey, we're hearing this. This is how we can set you up for success. But I really wanted to circle back to a couple different things that actually did happen once the 14 hit. So originally we were told it was going to hit early April, and it didn't actually hit, I think, until mid-May or early May. We were bracing ourselves and nothing happened. And I was like, what's going on? Performance was impacted here and there, but nothing too crazy. But then something happened, and it was the attribution window cut down. And I think Carly's going to speak a little to this, but yeah, this was an interesting one.
Yeah, so just a little more information on this. Originally, when before the iOS 14 update happened, the default attribution window was a 28-day click, 1-day view. And that just essentially means that if someone saw your ad, you had 28 days from them initially viewing the ad for them to actually convert with your company for it to be counted as a purchase. So that gave a little more wiggle room in terms of how long someone had to make a purchase decision. So that really helped in situations where there's a bigger purchase value. So oftentimes it takes a little bit longer, rather than, if you're just buying a t-shirt, usually you'll convert pretty quickly. But if there's a bigger ticket item, typically people like to do a little more research before they make that purchase. So that helped in terms of getting more purchases attributed to the ads. And with this iOS 14 update, they changed the default attribution window to a 7-day click, 1-day view, which essentially means there were only 7 days allowed after viewing the ad for that to be attributed to your ad. So that has really affected the number of purchases and conversions we're seeing on our end. Even though an ad may be causing a purchase 28 days down the line, we're not getting credit for that anymore, which really lessens, our return on ad spend and how things are looking on the ad platform. So you can also lower to a 1-day click, 1-day view, but typically 7-day click, 1-day view is the best thing to do right now. Yeah, it's made a big impact overall on every company, big or small. It just doesn't allow us to see the same data we once could.
So with that, so let's kind of boil that. Let's pick that apart for a second.
Mhm.
So if someone, because this is, I mean, I know a lot, but obviously there's even things like even some what we're saying here, I'm going, okay, wait, in real world. So if we're, small business or we're running a campaign, someone goes, they're on Facebook, and let's say it's for women's shoes, let's say. So there's an ad, and that ad is clicked, person doesn't take action on it. And let's say the old way, now. So you're saying up to almost 30 days, that 28-day window, if they did ever come back, maybe through that pixel, that Phoenix was talking about, they go to the site, whatever, they end up checking out, that conversion, that sale can now be attributed back to that ad that the company was running, or we were running, or someone else was running. So they can see success in that campaign.
Right. So
okay, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, right. Just it gave us a longer window to see that success, because if that does happen now and say someone takes 30 days, we're not getting that sale, even though the ad did create that sale. It's just not allowing us to see the same big picture.
Got it. So that's the kind of thing where I don't want to dig too deep yet, but where we talk about, the cost per acquisition, or the cost, per lead. What's the term for that, Phoenix, in Facebook? Is it a different term?
Yeah, it's a CPA, right? That's the acronym, is cost per acquisition. And we look at that. We also look at click-through rates. So percentages of how people are clicking something and spending a little bit more time or more invested, et cetera. But yeah, go ahead, Carly. I think you were saying something.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Did I cut you off, Carly?
Oh, no, you're fine.
Oh, okay. So, so basically now with it being cut down to 7 days, they go in, and a week and a half later, sorry, Phoenix, am I off base here?
No, you're 100%.
Okay.
So let me simplify. I said this to my mother, who my mother, God bless her, she is awesome. Are you saying I'm old?
Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm simplifying things because I realize sometimes we get so granular and in the weeds that we just don't come up and go, wait a minute, come back to earth. And my mom does a great job of just putting me back in my place. She said, okay, great, Phoenix, I don't get it. And I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure she still thinks I do organic social media and I post for a living, and I wish, right? I wish I could make a living off of that. But anyway, I was telling her, I said, okay, well, think of it like this. And I always make like the Office joke, right? There was an episode where Michael Scott marks a girl with a Sharpie, right? And this is how I look at our ads, right? You mark someone with a Sharpie when they come to your site, right? The difference is the Sharpie lasted for 28 days before, so I can identify that person as somebody who I marked or came from a certain specific area or came from my Sharpie, right? Now it's rubbing off in 7 days versus 28 days, right?
Got it.
And then let's just say I accidentally got guacamole dip on her shirt too, right? That guacamole dip is now, instead of lasting for 7 days as a stain, it's only lasting for 1. She decided to wash her clothes. So that's the issue, is we're not being able to see anybody who we marked with a Sharpie. So a lot of things that are coming into Google Analytics is saying direct traffic, right, is potentially a portion of our revenue that we were able to report on. So what Carly's speaking to is, let's just say a year ago, I went, hey, I spent let's just do apples to apples. I spent $1,000 in ads and you got $6,000 back. We call that a ROAS, or return on ad spend. So you got 6 times the amount of your ad spend back. That's a win. We love that, right? Mm-hmm. Great. Now your attribution window is shorter. So it's saying you actually only got $4,000 back that we can give you credit for. That doesn't mean we didn't get you 6,000 again. We don't know. We can't accurately report that anymore. But I can accurately say that $4,000, you got a 4 return on ad spend. It's going to be a blow to the owner, but I always say, look back at Shopify. Do you see the volumes change overall? What are you seeing in regard to your revenue in general for the month?
Gotcha. So theoretically, they could be making, even running these campaigns with these cut down attribution windows, they could still be making the same, more or less, but whatever we can attribute to the campaigns is just kind of been cut off at the knees, so to speak.
Correct. And that is really limiting to a digital advertiser, because how do we know what's working and what isn't as to the volume of and degree of what it was before? So if I'm saying, okay, my campaign for sweatshirts was doing so well, it had a 6 return on ad spend. Now it's saying it's a 4 return on ad spend. Does that mean that my campaigns are suffering, or are they doing just as well? And now I'm not able to see that. So without getting too granular of how we tag and which Sharpie we used and which guacamole we used, right? It's more so of like, hey, how is your volume of purchases this month? So it's a little challenging in this space. The other thing I wanted to talk about, which was very interesting, and we want to separate the Red Sea, right, is view attribution versus click attribution. So we talked about this, right? We did 7-day click, 1-day view, 28-day click, 7-day view. We talked about all these different things. But we actually have a client right now on our roster who used to not let us report on anything but click attribution. And this is for maybe the more advanced client that we have.
Sure.
So most clients, we just send them blended data. We just say, hey, click and view. This is your average. Here you go, right? Our other client went, no, I don't believe in view. I think view is assisted by anything. It could mean that Google could have done it. It could have meant organic could have helped you too as well, right? Just because they viewed your ad doesn't mean that they actually bought because of your ad. Now with clicking, it absolutely means that they bought from our ad.
There's an action you can attach to it. Got it.
The problem with that from a digital advertiser's perspective is that, well, who's to say it didn't? Who's to say view didn't? So I wouldn't take that out completely. I always just give blended. But to the more advanced client that says, no, I want the difference, we only got to report on click. And usually that was 50%, if not lower than 50% of the actual revenue. So before I would maybe, let's just say we had an 8 return on ad spend, I'd say, congratulations, you had a 3.8 or 4. Fully knowing that they actually got 8 times what they spent. And that's so successful in comparison to all of our other accounts. But, they only wanted that click attribution.
Sure.
So what did this 14 update do? It eliminated the differentiation. Now you don't get the choice. It's all put together.
Got it.
So there used to be 2 columns that would tell you, this is how much you got in money from views, and this is how much you got from clicks. Now it's 1.
And do we know which one is, so it's just putting the volume of both, just slapping them both together.
Correct.
Got it. And this is for those who maybe are not, again, we're not going to go too deep into this, but this is bringing Google into the mix. This is something that when it comes to Google's data and Facebook's data, especially for people running campaigns on both sides, there's a lot of battling between those two. At least there has been, because Facebook wants to take credit wherever it can to show that their platform works, and Google wants to take credit wherever they can. So trying to peel apart that data, especially when Facebook, and I don't think they wanted to do this, but it's what they're being forced to do right now, have now just had to mesh some of these data points together. It makes it very, very difficult. It's like trying to untangle a DNA strand of trying to figure out what chromosome does what and what works. It's I don't want to say it's impossible, but it's very, very not simple, especially at this current moment.
Right. I mean, poor McKay, when you came on board, it was already in the 14 iOS phase. And I'm going over here going, hey, you need to change your columns again. And what that means is how we view data from the back end of Ads Manager, which is the platform we use to see the data, to make decisions for your campaigns, to build and to optimize. Everything was just topped on its head. Hey, Courtney.
Oh, hi.
Hey, Courtney. Yeah, we're wrapping up a podcast, so we'll can we catch up with you in a few? Say hi, Courtney. Okay, bye, Courtney.
So
Well, we're going to wrap up this
I love
part
it.
one pretty soon in a moment here anyways. But I think here's the thing, because again, we didn't want to, this is going to be a 3-part to go through all the pieces, of this. So I think, at a high level, what we've tried to express is that, hey, a lot of the data that we used to be able to get and the way we used to be able to attribute success is being shook up. And I think there's a lot of small businesses and agencies out there. If you Google Apple versus Facebook right now, you're going to find everyone going, I don't know what's happening. But we are trying to, be very transparent about what we do know and how we're trying to combat this. And there's a lot more to come. So Phoenix, if there was anything hey Bernard, so Phoenix, if there was anything that for this exact moment until we get to part 2 that we want to leave people with, what would you say that is?
Yeah, so the first taste is 14 update meant limited data, and we had to react fast, right? But we didn't see anything too impactful as of yet, other than the attribution window that we spoke to slimming down. I think in the next episode, when we talk about 14.3, then we really talk about where that domain verification came back and we go, oh yeah, we did that. Why did we do that? And it goes further deep in depth. We'll talk about how they cracked down on ad accounts that had fake profiles that owned the account. So for example, somebody who didn't want their personal profile linked to their business, well, that got shut down and they really hit hard there. We anticipated retargeting to be hit, and we'll actually tell you what did get hit. And then the breakdown elimination, showcasing unknown and what that means. So we're excited to talk about on our next episode, but those are a couple of things and topics that we'll be speaking on.
Absolutely. I mean, thank you so much, Phoenix and Carly and Megan and McKay and Bernard for popping in, our normal host, the normally who's here. But if this is your first time hearing about the iOS 14 update, now you have a recap, but we're going to really get into the nitty gritty in part 2. So keep your eye out for that. Should be out shortly. So thanks for checking out the Digital Breakthroughs podcast from nationalpositions.com. And we will see you in the next episode.
You've been listening to Digital Breakthroughs, featuring experts in all the areas of cutting-edge digital marketing. Digital Breakthroughs is hosted by Bernard May, CEO of leading social media and digital marketing agency, National Positions, located online at nationalpositions.com.